Hello and welcome to today's lesson in portraiture. Today we're going to work with charcoal. So I have some willow charcoal and I have some compressed charcoal. I have a bit of white chalk or white Conte. I also have a kneadable eraser, as you can see, and a normal white eraser. So today we're going to do a portrait in charcoal, and I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible, beginning where we left off last lesson, which was using the proportions of the face, where you have an outside shape, kind of like a upside down egg, and we can fit eight we can fit five eyes across. I was thinking this is an 8-part series, so 8 was in my brain. 5. So 5 eyes across is sort of the width from here to here. That the outside of the nostrils line up with the inside of the eyes, and then from the top of the head, halfway is the center of the eyes, halfway is the bottom of the nose, halfway again is the mouth. So we're going to be looking at that and trying to keep it very simple. We're not going for a likeness, nothing like that at this stage. If it looks human, perfect. That's what we're going for. Human, and just understanding the proportions. And that's going to be today's lesson. So I'll see you over there. Okay, so I'm working on brown paper today. I like the brown paper because I already have a mid-tone down here, and then I can add something dark and I add something light. So you can see I got something dark here, something even darker, and then something light. And I have the mid-tone. So I like to do that. I'm doing a picture of Lady Gaga. Because we kind of looked at her face already from our last lesson, so I thought it was a good one. So I'm going to put her top of her head about here, and I'm just going to do an upside down egg. Now, one of the things I'm going to be looking at, though, is that her face is actually a little bit on an angle here. It's on a very slight angle like this. Okay, so if it's on a slight angle like that, then remember this has to be going with it. One of the biggest things that mistakes that students do is they'll do a head that's on the side like this. Say that's the neck there, and they'll leave the eyes straight. It's actually anatomically incorrect and impossible. You need to have the eyes on the same angle like this. So if that's on an angle, then this is on an angle. So this is a 3/4, this is slightly on an angle. If I look at her face, there's more space that I can see over here than there is over there. Okay, so I have my upside down egg, and now I'm going to put those measurements in that we learnt from the first class, which is head to chin, halfway is the eyes, eyes to chin, halfway is the nose, nose to chin, halfway is the mouth. In the willow charcoal, you can see I can wipe it off really easily if I mess these sort of initial marks up. So you can see I'm doing them on a little bit of an angle. And then I'm going to put in the equal measurements of the 5 eyes across, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how to make a 3/4 face. So you can see those are vaguely equal. So in a 3/4 view, I'm going to lose the space I have over there on the right. The position of the right eye needs to move over now to the right, and I lose that space on the side of that eye, goes to the left. So I'm going to explain it over here on this big head. I am going to narrow that space, the width there on the right hand side, because if I'm measuring the side of her face there, I can see that the side of the face, the measurement of that space is about half of an eye's width. So I am going to make that narrower, and then I'm going to add it to the left. So even though her hair is in the way, I can kind of see that. So I'm going to add that half eye measurement over to the other side. The other thing to think about is the head is also a bit of a square, or should I say it is a cube. You have the front, you have the side, you have the top and the bottom, and that makes a cube. And you also have, there's all the measurements we talked about last week, but you also have your upside down egg in there, and you have the back of your skull. It all fits in that cube formation. I've sped up the filming of this because in real time it was really slow, so I'm speeding things up a little bit. This did take me a long time. I'm wiping away the areas of the eyes that I don't need. Okay, I'm going to put in where her eye sockets are, just as big black shapes. And I'm going to do that whole area there. You can see from the bottom of where her bags are, right up to her eyebrows. And I'm going to try to get that kind of accurate, the shape of that eyebrow. And then I'm going to line up the corners of the eyes with the nose and just block in just a massive sort of shape. Just a bit of shadow and where the mouth is. So just remember that the nostrils line up with the inside of the eyes there. The next thing I want to do is look at the shapes around her eyes and her nose and her mouth. So that would include this forehead here. So I'm looking at the shape of the forehead and putting that shape in. I'm going to continue making different shapes around her face, or finding the different shapes around her face. I can see that hair underneath the chin, underneath the jaw. That's all creating a different kind of shape. So I'm just going to keep finding these shapes. They might be wrong. Sometimes I'll adjust them a little bit, and that's, again, it's really nice about the willow charcoal. Those cheekbones there, I can smudge all that sort of stuff around with my fingers, which I can use my finger to do a little bit of the drawing as well for those more subtle sort of shapes and formations around her cheek. Now looking at my drawing, it's a little bit on an extra angle there, but at least it's got some personality. It's not stiff. I'd rather have an extra angle than a really straight on face. That's just me though. So I'm going to be looking for the shape of the hair on the left-hand side of the face now. And sometimes I go slowly, kind of like a contour a contour line, and sometimes I go quickly. So I really want to kind of get where that hair is coming in and where that cheekbone is coming in, and find that angle. So sometimes I use a paintbrush or a ruler just to try to really get those angles correct, because they make a big difference in a portrait, especially if you're trying to capture a likeness, which I'm not trying to do today. I'm just trying to make it look human. And sometimes when I'm not actually trying to make it look like a likeness, and I'm just trying to capture all the different angles, that likeness will magically appear on its own. So I'm just getting all the dark areas I see in that hair. I'm not doing every single strand of the hair. I'm looking for the blocky shapes. Try to forget that you're drawing a mouth or a nose or an eye, whatever it is. Just see the shapes, and see the shapes around the mouth and the nose. Just smudge things around. Take your time looking at the shapes around things, like the chin there. I'm looking at the shape that darkness and the lightness is creating, and forgetting about the actual mouth. I can see that's too short. I don't want the outside of her nostril lining up with her mouth. Her mouth is over here. Look at that. It's over there way more. A big mistake would be to start decorating at this stage, putting
perfect eye in, perfect nose, and perfect mouth in the wrong spots.
You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you've got the right position, and you want to always be moving things around, changing things. Always. It's only at the very, very end you start decorating, and everything else is discovery.
I'm going to work a little bit on the mouth. If I measure the corners of her mouth, they will line up with the middle of her irises. You can see that there. And it's a little bit softer just in that area. You can use your kneadable eraser to lighten areas that are too dark. So I'm just using that to get rid of the willow charcoal. Now I'm going to try to find the middle of her mouth. So I need to find that curved line there through the center of her face. There is more space on the left of the lip than on the right. I'm going to use my kneadable eraser, find the angle, and press it down and lift it up. So you can see I can just find that angle, press down the willow, and lift it up. Kind of like silly putty, if you ever used that as a kid. Just like there was on the side of the eyes, there's less space on the right side of that mouth than on the left. Now looking at the shape of the upper lip, and I like to look at the middle of the lip, not the top. And it's straight across. If you have a look at your photo reference, it's just straight across there. I continue to look at all the different negative shapes, the shapes around the features, and I soften some things with my kneadable eraser or my finger and just keep trying to find those shapes around the mouth. Not sure about it yet, but that's okay. It's all about shifting things and moving things. Now I'm going to have a look at that nose, and I'm going to start using some darker compressed charcoal to get that shadow underneath her nose. Because we have a slightly 3/4 view, the nostrils on the right side are going to be shorter than the nostrils on the left side. So just keep that in mind when you're doing 3/4 to check those sort of things. And I'm just going to soften some of those areas in there. You can see that shape that I have there of the nose, of the bridge. So I'm going to use my finger to wipe that away. And I'm just kind of softening the side of that nose as well. See how it's not a really strong, dark section. It's quite light, actually. I will zoom into the picture a little bit later so you can see it a little bit better, the photo reference. So I'm just getting the actual shape that I'm seeing. Going a little bit more into detail now. And again, still finding shapes. It's all very, I work quite slowly, so it's a slow process for me. And I just keep moving things around. Now I want to find where her eyes are starting, the corner of her eyes. So I'm going to check the measurement of the top of her head to the chin, make sure, it's the middle there, line it up with the nostril, and use my kneadable eraser or my finger to wipe away the area. So there's where I want it to start. So I'll use my eraser to put in that area. And there's more space. Oops, there we go. The eye on the right is in more, closer to the nose than the one on the left. So I'm going to just adjust that. I've sped up all of this footage of me drawing in real time, and I'm doing a voiceover, so I hope you don't mind that, but it was very, very long, so I thought this was a fast way of presenting this lesson. So I'm just always going around and looking at the angles of things. So when I'm doing these eyes, I'm looking at the angle of the eyebrow, and now I'm looking at the white shapes around her actual eyes. So her brow bone, her actual eyelid, and I'm using my kneadable eraser to subtract those areas from her face. And I'm then measuring as well, how deep is that eyelid? How deep is the eye itself? And you can see that they're actually almost the same size there. So I want to be continuously looking at those things. And I'm looking at that objectively now, while I'm not working on it, and I can see that that eye is going to be too low, so I'm going to have to fix that later. But I didn't realize it while I was doing it. And you'll make similar mistakes. But if you're not too attached to every single stroke of your pencil being perfect, and you're okay with letting go and redoing areas, you're going to learn a lot more. So again, I'm just measuring things like how long is that nose compared to how wide is that cheek. I'm always kind of comparing different areas to one another. And still finding, subtracting the white areas. Because there's a lot of light areas. Even though I started the whole thing with dark, it's just an easier way for me to think of things. I have to make sure that the points of the eyes line up with one another. I don't have one eye really, really high and one really low. And it is on an angle as well. So now I'm putting some dark areas in there as well. I got rid of some darks and then added them again. And softening that corner there. And now I'm finding the white spaces around the iris, opposed to drawing the iris itself in. I have to get more information from those little tiny little white areas. I am going to continue doing exactly the same thing I've been doing almost this whole drawing, by adding some things with the charcoal and then subtracting them with the kneadable eraser, checking all my angles, making sure things are all lined up. And I'm going to do that pretty much to the end of this video, and then I'll begin another video where I get more into detail. going to have a look at her mouth and put a little suggestion of her teeth in there. Sorry for my big head in the way, but that you can see that even that amount of teeth was a little bit much, so I had to soften it a little bit. You just need a suggestion of the teeth. I'm going to use a bit of dark compressed charcoal to get just the corners of the mouth. It really helps to give definition in that area. I'm also putting some dark in the inside of her mouth, on the other side of her teeth, and between her lips. That's going to help make it look more 3D. If you want to do some detailed work but don't want to smudge your drawing, get a piece of paper, in this case it's baking paper, and lay it on top of your drawing. That way you can lean your hand on your drawing and it won't smudge anywhere. If your drawing is at this stage and you're pretty happy with it, then thanks for watching. If you would like to add more detail, then join me for part 2, where I'll put some darker adjustments in there and some white Conte. And I'm just using a white eraser now just to clean it all up and make it extra fresh. So thanks for watching. Join me in part 2.